Hello and welcome to the gallery. My name's Jon and today we're going to do a strange sort of self-portrait. Now, ever since I first saw the website for Heroforge, I thought to myself, well, it could be fun to do kind of a little miniature of myself. Now, most of you probably don't know this, but I have been an avid Viking reenactor for many years, and take great pleasure in that. So I thought to myself, why not make myself a Viking-esque model of myself from Heroforge. As you can see in the following pictures, that I'm not really that typical Viking character guy. I mean, I have the usual stuff. I have a sword, I have a saber, I have spears, axes, and a shield. Well, many shields. But the look has diverged a bit from the Viking look, more to a piratey Viking look. So I just decided to run with that and go for a piratey Viking, but fantasize it up a little bit so it's a little bit more interesting. And then I added a small cat. The reason for the small cat is because when I'm at home I have a couple of cats, one in that loony bin, and then the big half Maine Coon bastard. And yes, he's a bastard. He's always at the legs, always trying to lie in my lap, and can be quite aggressive, but I love the bastard anyway, so decided to put him there because he's usually there. And let's just start with the Heroforge model, cut the base off a little bit, made it a little bit bigger. A friend of mine 3D printed it out of resin for me. I made a little bit of a bigger scale just to have a little bit more fun with it. And yeah, it's a simple enough task. Let's just paint the bastard up. I mean, not the bastard, I mean me, of course. Now here we have the resin figure, straight out of the printer, not the box, the printer. Did a little bit of filing on it, just a little bit of nips where the supports were, and yeah, just a little bit of rough corners here and there. I mean, I left some of the rough corners. Rough corners can be okay. So I started with a little bit of central highlighting over a black base coat, and then we just went straight in with black. I'm not using shades or contrast paints for this time around. I'm just doing wet blending, and a lot of it. And of course, wet blending is just using really thick, and I use a little bit of flow improver into my paints when I'm wet blending. Gives me a little bit of extra working time. And this is mainly just colors from the wet palette. I'm using black and white and just mixing them together as I go along. A little bit more white here, a little more black there. And this is going to be the main thing of this paint job. It's wet blending and few colors, but mainly using the colors that I already have on the wet palette. And a little bit more rougher blending there on the smaller surfaces, smoother on the bigger surfaces. And now, instead of wet blending right around there, I'm more doing of a stippling and feathering kind of thing because the paint has started to dry underneath. And then again, red paint. A little bit of the darker red, and then just wet blend the lighter red on top of that. Then I mix in a little bit of a khaki color. Gives a nice tone to the red without making it too orangey or something like that. We don't want an orange tunic, it's a red tunic. I know it might look harsh now when it's still all wet and shiny, but it'll be a little bit nicer, a little bit longer along the way. And then the leather trim, again, surprise, using wet blending. And I'd like to mention as well that this entire model, I just painted it up in one day. I was also having fun with doing it quickly, so it might be rough, but it's okay to be rough. Let's call it a theme for this one. And then, of course, the wooden shield. It's a little bit more red color to it. So I'm using basically the same colors I was using the leather, but mixing in the black-red color into the darker tones to make it a little bit more woodeny. That's a word now. And yes, this is more of a layering kind of thing, not much wet blending going on there. And a little bit of freehand. I didn't feel comfortable enough to do a design I have on my actual shield because that's quite a lot larger, but just a little bit of a hint of a design on it. Now here I am using shades. Yes, I said I didn't use many shades for this, but I did a little bit of lining where fabric meets other fabric. I threw down a little bit of shade there. Little bit of shade there went overboard, but moisten up the brush and you can just clean it right up. Still using the black shades around almost everything, all the trims of everything, the cloak for everything. And then we switch it up and we start using a more of a reddish tone when we enter the gloves, like you see here. Just to do a little bit of variant to the leather. The leather was quite dull. It was too much of the same color. So we just tinted a little bit with this and then use another shade just on the top bits of these feathery fur type things. Now, back to wet blending. Now I am doing something I'm not comfortable with, and that is non-metallic metal. So I'm just doing a quick, dirty, grimy version of it. I threw in a little bit of green to the black and white I'm using just to give it a little bit of a more steely feel. And as you can see, this is a rough non-metallic metal. If I would spend more time on it, I could probably do something better, but I'm not really that good with the NMM. Especially on swords. Swords can be tricky. Long, flat, and thin surfaces. Not the best for me. This bulbous shield boss, that's much more my thing. And then we enter the facial features. Now I thought that you really didn't need to see this, so let's have the face completely out of focus for the first part. That looks like a good idea. Like you see, well, you really don't. I know where the focus button is and I hit it. We are using more layering kind of versions to painting there than wet blending. A lot of thin layers of ever increasingly brighter colors. And then almost white on the top. And then we do eyes. Now I hate painting eyes, mainly because I suck at it. But we did a black dot and a brown dot and a little bit of white dot. And now I have facial features, well, facial hair, not much of it, but a little bit, so let's paint it. Eyebrows, mustache, a little bit of goatee, and of course some sideburns with the hair. And because my hair is not completely black, it's more of a brownie type thing, some brown highlights just to hint at that it's not black. And of course, Tyr, the cat, he has to have paint too, so we go from dark to a little bit of brown, to a little bit of grey on top of that, and then a little bit of white to pop up the highlights on that. Because he is this browny, black, greyish color. And then the white chest hair, Start with grey, then a little bit of white highlights on that. And then green eyes, black irises, small white dot to make it pop. But like you see, there were not many colors I used for this paint job. It was 10 colors maybe, and just mixing them up on the wet palette, and you can get a lot of differentiation. That might be a word. We're gonna use it. So now that I've painted myself all up, nice and pretty like, I made a little bit of a display base for myself. A little bit of clay underneath, some gravel, a little bit of tree bark painted up like rocks, an old branch, a little bit of plastic, tufted, flowery type things I had. And this is the end result. Felt a bit different to paint something, feeling so familiar with it, but yet something so inherently not familiar. Mainly using basic techniques of wet blending and layering, nothing too fancy going on here. Quick paint job, but a fun one. And that's the name of the game. Let's have fun painting. That's the main point of all this painting thing. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here today. There are links in the description for all kinds of stuff, social media, Patreon, all kinds of stuff. You do with it what you will. Like, share, and subscribe, and scribe it on the scrolls. But until next time, farewell.